All rise.
Thank you. Please be seated.
The Gospel Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Good morning. And welcome everyone. I'm Judge Picard, presiding judge in this case. Court officer, could you please call the case?
Your Honor, this is the file number KSCCSC 2023-02, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Salih Mustafa. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I will ask the parties and counsel for victims to introduce themselves and their teams, starting with the Specialist Prosecutor's Office.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everybody in and outside of the courtroom. The SPO is represented today by Mr. Nathan Quick, legal officer and team leader, Julie Mann, our case manager, and myself, Cezary Michalczuk, SPO prosecutor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I turn to the defense.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Julius von Bonnet. The defense is represented by myself, Julius von Bonnet, the co-counsel, Mr. Jonathan Rees. Joining us today is Mr. Mustafa via remote, and the waiver has been earlier sent to the CMU. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next will the counsel for victim please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, everybody. The participating victims are today represented by my co-counsel, Brechtje Vossenberg, and myself, Annie Poos, as counsel.
Thank you. Now I turn to the registry.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'm Ralph Roach from Judicial Services Division on behalf of the registry. Thank you.
Thank you. I note that Mr. Mustafa is not physically present in the courtroom, but he is attending this hearing via video conference. Before we start, I would like to recall that Judge Ambos, Judge Jorgensen, and myself have been assigned to the Court of Appeals panel to decide on the appeal against the trial judgment issued in this case on 16 December 2022. In accordance with Rule 178 of the rules, the purpose of this pre-appeal conference is to give the accused the opportunity to raise issues in relation to his detention, including his mental and physical condition. To this end, on 9 February 2023, I issued an order on behalf of the panel to convene this pre-appeal conference and to set out the agenda to be followed during this hearing. For today's session, I would like to remind everyone that a few rules must be observed at all times in order to have effective courtroom proceedings with an accurate record. Bear in mind the necessity of an accurate interpretation, which requires a bit of additional time sometimes after you have finished speaking. Please rise to ask permission to speak and do not forget to use your microphone. This hearing is transcribed in real time and will be reflected in a transcript available to the public. I remind counsel to give prior notice should any submission require the disclosure of confidential information so that we can go into private or closed session. As per the scheduling order setting out the agenda for today, I will first hear submissions related to the accused detention. I also informed the registrar that I would invite submissions on the progress made on the translation of the trial judgment into Albanian and its expected finalization. I note that counsel for victims requested to discuss at the pre-appeal conference the scope of submissions she may make during the appellate proceedings. The defense has also filed a motion on the same subject. In light of the panel's decision issued yesterday, setting out the modalities on victim participation during appellate proceedings, no further submissions are warranted. I hope everyone had time to read this decision. The defense team for Mr. Mustafa has not informed the panel of any additional matters to be addressed today. I also note that the SPO does not wish to raise additional issues. Today's hearing will be conducted in compliance with this agenda. Accordingly, I will invite the defense now to raise any issues related to the detention of the accused. I remind counsel to request that we go into private session should they wish to refer to any confidential information related to the health or any medical condition of the accused. Now, counsel for Mr. Mustafa, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Obviously, the appeal proceedings are simply because the accused and the defense is challenging the judgment of the 16th of December. As far as the agenda for today regarding the detention pending appeal, we do not wish to raise any issue at this point, at this moment. If we would do that, we will do that by a separate motion along the proceedings, but not as for this hearing today. So there is no pending issues regarding that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with regard to detention, our position is that pending the appeal proceedings and post-conviction, the accused, the convicted person should remain in detention. There is a grounded suspicion, and the threshold is even higher after the conviction. For Article 41, paragraph 6.a, there are also risks, not only obstruction of criminal proceedings before these chambers, but also the risk of flight, because after the conviction for 26 years of Mr. Mustafa for murder, torture, and arbitrary detention, we believe that apart from the risks confirmed by the trial panel, the risk of flight is also present here in this case. Your Honors, we believe that according to Article 46, paragraph 8 of the Law on Specialist Chambers and the Specialist Prosecutor's Office, the detention on remand pending appeal is a rule rather than the exception, and indeed in the appeals panel's decision in the case against Hüsnü Gutsati and Nasim Haradinaj, and the decision was dated 28th of July 2022, it was confirmed that indeed there is a presumption of detention pending appeal, where release is the exception and detention is the rule. So this is our position, Your Honors, that Mr. Salih Mustafa should remain in detention pending the appeals proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. In fact, I was coming to this point. On behalf of the panel, I recall that pursuant to Article 46(8) of the law, unless the trial or court of appeals panel orders otherwise, a convicted person shall remain in custody pending an appeal. I further recall the panel's finding, as you mentioned, in the case 2022-01, that contrary to the phase prior to conviction in the first instance, where a pretrial judge or trial panel are required to conduct a bi-monthly review of detention according to the rules of procedure and evidence and the law, this is no longer required during the appellate proceeding post-conviction. The next item on today's agenda pertains to the progress made on the translation of the trial judgment into Albanian. Could the representative of the Registrar's Office take the floor?
Thank you, Your Honour. Yes, the draft translation is being distributed today, and we are working intensively on preparing a final version, which will be ready by the end of March. We will also distribute with the final version a version showing any differences between the draft distributed today and the final version for ease of readers. So thank you, Your Honour.
Thank you. Any comments or observations of the parties or the Council for Victims on that point?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. I hear that it is distributed today. However, I believe I received it Wednesday. That is an unrevised for this moment with the yellow thing going through it. And I hear that it is at the end of March. At the end of March, I understand that there will be a finalized version. It is important to have a good and finalized version, also especially for the accused, because I think that our accused certainly wants to contribute to the appeal grounds, and we have filed 9 grounds of appeal. Mr. Mustafa has not been able to go through the English version of that judgment simply because it is not his native language, and we do believe that it is important that an accused himself can also formulate grounds of appeal, and therefore it is for us and for the accused in particular important that the final version will be forthcoming soon. And having said that, I do certainly not exclude that at that time, when that has been done, that finalized version, that we might file additional grounds of appeal simply because up to this moment the accused has not been able to go through it himself rather than having an English version. So that's why I think it is for the accused important that that finalized version will be forthcoming end of March, I hear, or preferably at any time earlier. The judgment was already in March, in December, so I truly hope that that will be forthcoming a little bit earlier than the end of March. That's the submissions for this moment. I thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you. Yes, we take note and we understand that the timing will be very short between the time you receive the Albanian version and the time where you have to file your appeal brief. But if so, you can ask, you can file submissions in writing to ask the panel to extend the delay between the delay to file your appeal brief. Mm.
Yes, we were certainly considering that because of this this issue. That's why I want to.
I understood. Yes. Mm.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Regarding the filing of the appeal briefs, responses or replies, I, on behalf of the panel, would like to remind the parties and the Council for Victims that the appeal briefs, responses or replies must comply with the word limit as indicated in the practice direction on files and filings or otherwise duly authorized in advance by the panel. Article 48(3) of the practice direction provides that the word limit for appeal brief in this case is 30,000 words. Unless anyone has...
May I?
Yes, please.
Yes, yes. You just calculate the word count. We have, of course, taken notice of that. We have filed 9 grounds of appeal, but in it there's roughly 59, 60 sub-grounds. So I expect that we might be short of words in our final appeal brief. So I envisage and I foresee that most probably we will ask for an extension of the word counts, and if that is granted to the defense, then obviously that would could be granted to other parties as well, as the court deems that necessary.
Okay, so you will probably file a motion on this subject, I understand?
I think so, Your Honor, yes.
So the panel will decide. Unless anyone has something further to add, this concludes today's hearing. I thank the parties, Council for Victims and the Registry for their attendance and contribution. And I also thank the interpreters, stenographers, audiovisual technicians and security personnel for their assistance. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.